Hey friends, I hope you're doing well. As we come to the end of summer, I'm just always we're in Mercury retrograde, and the end of summer is kind of a time of harvest and reflection for me. And I was thinking about how 12 years ago I had moved from the Bay Area down to Los Angeles and had relocated my private practice and left a community of colleagues and just a network of great friends and experiences that I've had up there, to move down to Los Angeles and start something new. And since we're in Mercury retrograde, and I just want to talk about changes. Creating something new in the middle of your life can feel overwhelming, and rebuilding can take time, and it can impact our egos, constantly reminding us of what was. And I think a lot of people were still kind of reeling from the uh, post-COVID experience, and, you know, reflecting on what the world was like before COVID and what it's like now, and the things that have come back and the things that have changed permanently, and our need and ability to keep kind of rolling with things and moving forward. It is important. But sometimes when we look back at the changes, we can feel kind of overwhelmed. A lot of people, had to start over. And when you have to start over, whether you're choosing it or it's being forced upon you, such as when, you surprise someone wants a divorce, or your company has downsized, or a contract has dried up, it can be a struggle. We struggle with it. And for many of us, one of the reasons we struggle is because we've been taught that success is linear, right? Like you kind of go up the ladder. And if you're going down the ladder, because you're doing this linear model, then something's wrong. That, if your life isn't always ascending forward. And so we've got like these metaphors of either we're either up, down, or making a lateral move. And I think those of thinking can really trap us, and not allow us to appreciate where we are in our lives, and that, life changes. So again, we've been indoctrinated to believe that up is the only acceptable option on the ladder, and that if we aren't climbing a ladder or ascending the ladder, that our human worth as human beings is lessened. Like the stock market, like we're stocks on a stock market. Yeah, our value is either rising, staying the same, or becoming worthless. And that's very much a capitalistic, patriarchal view, and that our worth as human beings is related to those kinds of things. So we need to shift that, and see the opportunities when something's happening. So it's like, are we going in reverse, or is there something that's wanting to be reborn within us, something that's wanting to shift and up level? Is it more of either a circle this way, or is it more of a spiral of things just changing? So I think that's something for us to think about. I remember working with a client, and that she said she felt like she was going in reverse since being laid off, and was trying to find a new path. And when there was some static on the phone, I thought she'd said rebirth. She had said reverse. And rebirth made more sense to me because, again, I think that when something shifts, changes, or leaves our life, that's an opportunity for something new to be created through us. So it's a rebirth. So I just felt like that was a very synchronistic communication that her and I had. And I was able to, tell her I did not hear reverse, I heard rebirth. And how could she see that moment in her life as a rebirth? Sometimes we need to remember that when we're going through hardships and whatnot, that there is a miracle. Miracles can happen. Marianne Williamson, who is running for president again in 2024, wrote an incredible book called Return to Love, which I highly recommend. And she quoted Nelson Mandela, of course, in her inaugural speech. But one of the things that she said was, a miracle is a release from internal bondage. So sometimes how we think about things can hold us in and keep us, enslaved, or which I talk about in the Mana Paradigm Shift, but can keep us in a certain mindset. And the miracle can be when we liberate our mind from how we choose to see or think about the circumstances that we're experiencing. I remember also another client of mine was kind of going through a dry spell, and kind of felt like they were losing everything in their lives. And we talked about how to see what was going on in their career as more of like a wheel of fortune in the tarot card, and that sometimes you're kind of on top of the world, and then sometimes you're, going under again, but you're coming back. There's a coming back, which is kind of like the seasons, right? Like I mentioned, it's kind of a harvest time. Right now, my garden is, reaping green beans and squash and corn and things like that. But in April, it was just dirt, and tiny seeds, and there was nothing there to look at. And in a few months again, all the crops are going to die away, and it will just be dirt. And does that mean the garden is a failure? No, it means the garden it's part of it's in its cycle, right? The trees will lose their leaves. Right now everything's fruiting. We've got all the orchards are fruiting, and plentiful with apples and plums and peaches and pears and whatnot. And but in January, the plants will just look like sticks. There won't be leaves. There won't be fruit. They will look dead as the trees. It's not hibernate, but there's a specific word for them. What trees do. Again, it doesn't mean that the apple and pear trees are an epic failure. It just means that they're in a season of retreat or hibernation, and they'll be ready to come back in the spring when the circumstances are right. And I think that if we can start to think about our lives in that way, that our lives are not rungs up a ladder, but they're parts of a season, and things go through the natural seasons. We just can't see them sometimes in the same way that we can see nature's cycles, but we do have cycles. And if we can hold that awareness when we're in like a dark night of the soul, or when things seem very bleak or nothing's growing, and just remember, that the seeds will come up and the leaves will sprout again on the trees, and things will happen in our lives. So just kind of holding those metaphors in mind with whatever we're going through. Seeing things as being rebirthed rather than going in reverse up and down a ladder. That model of success is very artificial and it's very hurtful, whereas a seasonal model is more cyclical and organic, right? Just like the patterns of the moon, the patterns of the sun and the seasons. So, and just like in nature, we need periods of letting go. We need periods of emptiness and winter in our lives, so that there's space for something new to be created. Just want to kind of put that out there, and remind you that whatever's going on in your life, again, it's temporary, and to just keep moving through it. And if it's going well, enjoy the harvest, and plan for the times when the harvest isn't there. Just like when we lived more connected to the earth, it's like we harvested things and we figured out how to store food and preserve it so that we would have what we needed in the wintertime. So just think about that in your own life. Like what are the things that you need? Do you have friendships that need preserving? Do you need to save some money for the proverbial rainy day? Is there some caring for yourself that needs to be done so that you have the resilience and the resources to move through tough times? Just kind of thinking about what that might be. And as always, if you haven't picked up a copy of It's Never Too Late to Be Yourself, I highly recommend that you do. Read it. It really talks a lot about change and transition and how to navigate change and transition. And if you're working on an abundance mindset or prosperity consciousness, pick up the Mana Paradigm Shift. and read that. That'll really help you adjust your thoughts and get on that mindset of freedom and abundance. And if you're just looking to, have a good escape and read a good book, like a novel, I do recommend Behind Barbed Eyes, which I wrote based on my experiences working as a psychologist in a women's prison. And my newest book, Flowers for Sarah, which is about a young non-binary writer trying to move through some heartbreak and find themselves. And both of those books have some spiritual lessons in them, so recommend those as well. And finally, if you are looking to hire a life coach, I'm around. And if you're looking for a past life regression experience, I am still offering those. So just drop me a line. We'll connect. All right, take care. And enjoy the last few days of summer. All right.